All right, good morning, everybody. We're going to get started. My name is Cassie Johnson, and I am the director of the Lake Mills Chamber here in town. Also an alumni of the Lake Mills School, so I'm glad to be back in here with you guys. First of all, good morning. Welcome back. I was lucky enough to experience a teacher summer this year. I was on maternity leave from June to the end of July, so I kind of can resonate with you on getting the summer off and then having to go back to work. So you're a little happy for the routine, sad for the freedom, but we're happy you're back. I want to start off with thanking our sponsors for the meal this morning and supporting the back to school breakfast every year. We have David's Marketplace, who made the eggs and the fruit. Don's did our coffee this year. Thank you, Jackie. Word of Faith Dominion Church, MBT Bank, Farmers Trust and Savings Bank, and Citizens Community Credit Union all sponsored, in part, the meal. So thank you to them. And then I'd also like to introduce our LMCDC Board of Directors. We have our President, Angie Thompson, who's not here. She's with WCTA. Vice President, Jackie Viella, with Dave's Auto Service and Don's Motor Mart. Our Treasurer is David Taft from MBT Bank. And then also on our board, we have Luann Scholbrock, Koloff Digital. And Anastini, Uptown Boutique. Kathy Bernhard, Winnebago Insurance Agency. Julie Connor, David's Marketplace, and then your very own Chris Rogney, the Lake Mills Community School District. I'd also like to recognize city council members. The ones that represent the city on my board are the mayor, Mark Peterson, and Joe Jampgard. Is he here? There he is. And then other council members include Bob Storby, Laurel Damacos, who's here, and Nathan Ostrander. So those are all city reps. Thank you to Ruth Ann Willier for the fresh baked rolls. She made them today, so that's why they're so good. And then obviously David's for preparing fruit and the egg bake, and Don's for coffee. As we get started with our program, I want to take a few moments to express our gratitude for all that you do. Our school, its teachers, administration, and staff, you do what you do for our community. Schools are the foundation of any thriving community. They are where our children learn the skills they need to succeed in life. They are also where young adults develop the character and values that will make them good citizens. We are so lucky to have such dedicated teachers in our community. You inspire our children to learn and grow, and you coach kids to face challenges and develop perseverance. You show kids what community means, and you make our community a better place. So thank you, Lake Mills Community School administration, teacher, and staff for your dedication to our youth and to the community. We wish you a fun and fulfilling academic year. And I now invite Pastor Doug Damacos up to give a greeting from La Mama.
Well, good morning. Good morning. Good to see all of you. And yes, I'm a part of La Mama. And you will love La Mama because it's an acronym, and educators love acronyms, right? So La Mama stands for the Lake Mills Area Ministerial Association. So any La Mama members here, would you please stand up so you can be recognized? Great. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for being here this morning. La Mama was started, it was birthed, founded 31 years ago. On September 15th, 1993, and I happened to be there and was a part of that 31 years ago. So anyway, it's a consortium between the Lake Mills schools and Lake Mills pastors and churches, and we've been working together for 31 years to make sure our children and young people receive the best education they can. So I bring you blessings and greetings from them, and also, I'm excited to hear Brian this morning because Brian and his family were actually a part of our church back in 1987. And I was going to share some stories about Brian this morning, about what it was like to pastor him. My wife and I pastor him, but then I realized that Brian could tell stories on me, too. And so I'll just say that Brian was just the model young person. And I wished in my 44 years of pastoral ministry, every one of my young people was like Brian. Amen. Did I get that right, Brian? Yeah. That's what you wanted me to say. Okay, I got it. Okay, perfect. So last year at this time, I don't know if you remember, but I talked to you about Moses and his God rod, where he was holding it up and he was doing the thing for God, and his arms got tired, so his brother Aaron and a buddy came along and held his arms up, and they got the victory. And I encouraged you all to do that with one another during the school year, because we all get tired. We get weary in doing good, as the Bible says. Well, this year, I want to challenge you and maybe encourage you a little bit to become the CEO of your area. Wherever you serve in the school, become the CEO, not the chief executive officer, but the chief encouraging officer. Try to say a word of encouragement, something positive to your peers, to students. Boy, do we need encouragement in the world we live in today, or what? So if you do that face-to-face, that's great. If you do that through text or email or phone call, try to do at least one encouraging word to someone, especially if they need it. And maybe you say, well, I'm the one that needs the encouragement. Well, I got good news for you. God has a principle in his word called the law of reciprocity. And what it is if you sow the seed, whatever you sow, you will harvest. You will reap back. So if you really need a word of encouragement, why not give it to somebody else? And somewhere down the line, somebody's going to encourage you back. So that's your challenge for this year, this brand new school year. We love you guys, appreciate all that you do, and want you to know that La Mama is behind you 100%, and may you have a blessed and successful brand new school year. God bless you. Thank you.
Pastor Domikos, thank you for those words of encouragement. It's the God rod, and that it gives us something to strive for. Always some good words. I appreciate that. And Cassie did a really nice job of thanking many in the room. I want to stand here and publicly thank Cassie for what she does to pull all this stuff together. So thank you, Cassie. So my name is Chris Rogney. I have the pleasure to serve as superintendent here at Lake Mills. I cannot think of a better way to kick off a school year than something just like this with these people in this room. This is a really special way to do it. I'm glad to do it. I'm glad to be part of it. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for being here in the past. Thank you for being here throughout the school year. It's always great. Teachers, welcome back. I've seen most of you. There's not really a time off, really. I think that's a misnomer out there, that I've seen all of you come through here, there, ball games, but welcome back to this school year. Community, we want to thank you for your part and what you do to support us. It does not go unnoticed. We know how important it is. One of the very special things about Lake Mills is this truly is a community school district. Okay, and it's not just the words on the wall. It's not just what it says in the sign. It's what's lived, and it's what's lived here through you guys in this room, so thank you. Now I'd like to introduce our featured speaker, Brian Hagen. Brian's a 1996 graduate of Lake Mills High School, where he is an active member of the football, basketball, golf, and baseball teams. A National Honor Society scholar, Brian delivered the graduation address for his class and went on to earn a Bachelor of Science in Management Information Systems from Iowa State University in the year 2000. His professional career has been dedicated to basketball, beginning as an assistant coach at Texas A&M University Corpus Christi and progressing through the various roles with the New Orleans Hornets and Pelicans. Since 2012, he has served as assistant general manager and director of player personnel for the Chicago Bulls, while also holding the general manager position for the Windy City Bulls from 2016 to 2019. Brian and his wife, Jamie, reside in Chicago with their 5-year-old son, Palmer, who's starting kindergarten this fall. He enjoys golfing and spending time with family. Brian grew up on an acreage outside of Joyce and is the son of Becky and Ron Hagen, both longtime residents of the area. Brian and his younger sister, Allison, class of 99, both attended preschool when it was held across the street from the school and attended K-12 school in Lake Mills schools. His grandparents live in the area, and most of his relatives either lived or still live in the North Iowa area. Lake Mills and Joyce continue to hold a special place in Brian's heart, even as his career has taken him across the country. Please join me in welcoming our 2024 Back to School Breakfast speaker, Brian Hagen.
Thank you, that was really nice. The first thing I thought of when I walked in here is I ate so many pizza burgers in here. Do they still serve those? Come on, Biden, let's go. This is amazing. I haven't been back here for a long time. 28 years ago, I spoke, like he said at my high school graduation. That was for sure the last time I spoke here. And it's just amazing. I have so many great memories. I have an administrative assistant who kind of organizes my life some now, and I can't remember anything without like 2 calendar things that ring on my phone. But when I started to get ready for this, I was thinking back, and I can remember like every teacher I ever had. Ramona Twito was my kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Warner, Mrs. Moe. I can go down the line, Mrs. Ingebrigtsen. I can remember when, in 1986, when the Challenger disaster hit. He rolled in one of those 2-ton televisions on the rollers, and they rolled it in, and we watched that, in one of the classrooms. Like he said, my son starts kindergarten next week, and for all you young people, have your kids young. It's a young people's game. I'm old, and I have a hard time keeping up. Going to school in Chicago we live in the city. And going to school in Chicago is different than here. There's a process, and they give kindergartners tests like the ACT and SAT to test into certain schools, or else you just pay like college and you go to private schools. So anyways, we're getting ready to get him into this kindergarten. And I sat down with some administrators and teachers, and they were like, they're preparing my wife and I like, oh, it can be awkward and difficult and this and that. And I sat there thinking, I was like, it was none of those for me. Like, I loved it, and I knew everybody. We grew up here and went to preschool across the street, and I went to kindergarten down there, and I ended down here. So it's just really different. My whole family, my mom went here, my dad went to Forest City, boo. My grandparents lived in the area, all my aunts and uncles. So my worldview when I left here in 1996 was pretty small. I'd never been on an airplane before. I've flown like a couple million miles, I think now, but I'd never been to an airport. And I applied, when I got done with high school, I applied to Iowa State and UNI, and I did not apply to Iowa because it was too far away. And that's true. I thought, I don't think the Avenue of the Saints was done yet, and I thought, God, 4.5 hours, I can't make that. That's way too far. And, that's kind of how I ended up going to Iowa State, more or less. But I'm proud every year they do a media guide in the NBA, which is like this big, thick book. It mostly features the players, but they have all of us staff in there. And they do a little picture and a biography for everybody, and then the newspaper guys can look you up before they rip you to shreds. And so I always make sure they put that I'm from Joyce, Iowa. And one year I had a beat writer from one of the teams come up to me, and he said, "You're from Joyce, Iowa?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "What cult leader keeps the people there?" Oh, man. He asked where I got groceries. I said, well, in Lake Mills or something, we drive a little bit. He was just like, what? What? Yeah. Before I forget, I also want to just say how much I enjoy and how much Rice Lake meant to me when I was a kid. I'm an addicted golfer. And when I was a kid, my grandfather played, and I wanted to learn how to play. But my folks didn't play, and we didn't have a lot of dough. But Rice Lake made it easy. It was like $50, and I could just play all I wanted. I had a moped. I would drive it from my house on the gravel road there. And then when I got older, I had a 79 Oldsmobile, and I would drive that thing home from practice, whether it was basketball, not basketball, it was winter, but like football, baseball. And if it was nighttime, I'd just park it by Tiedeman's house there, and I'd shine the lights on 6, and I'd play it like 3-4 times, and then go home. I love Rice Lake. I played it on Saturday with Al and John and Donnie, they took some of my money. I'll trace my work history quick, and it's an interesting journey. I've been in the NBA for 22 seasons now, with 2 different franchises, New Orleans and Chicago. When I was in New Orleans, it was the Hornets, and now they're the Pelicans. I started out as a video coordinator, which is, to explain the job, it's different now than it was then. Back then it was VCRs. You had all the stacks of VCRs. You press record and plus play on one, record on the other, and it was a beast. And you'd have to carry around these big cases of VHS tapes. But it's the best job you can get as a young person because it forces you to learn every player, every coach, every NBA action there is. And when you're young, you need to learn those things. And it's a really good way for a young person like me who has absolutely no reason to be in the NBA to get in the NBA because you get to know coaches, they get to know your work ethic, and you can kind of prove yourself. I started out, I did that for 4 seasons. My first season was with Tim Floyd, who I had been with at Iowa State, and I'll get to that soon. My last 3 doing that was for Byron Scott, who played with Magic Johnson and the guys in Showtime Lakers. Byron is a wonderful man. And then what happens in the NBA a lot of times is once you get in, opportunities present themselves because it's a transient business. People either leave on their own or they leave because they're forced to leave, and jobs open. And my 5th year in New Orleans, or my 4th year in New Orleans, we had an advanced scout leave. And what an advanced scout is it's someone who travels ahead of the team and they look at your schedule. So if the Bulls play, at that time New Orleans, if they play Miami on Saturday, you're going to go watch Miami play like a week earlier, and you scout their plays. So like they run floppy up, floppy down, fist out. You draw these up, you fax it to the coaches. There's faxes back then, and then the coach puts together the game plan based on your scout. I did that for a year. It's a brutal job. 6 a.m. flight, get ready, go to the game, stay up all night doing this report, fax it if hopefully the hotel fax machine works, wake up 6 a.m., fly to the next game. I did that for 1 year, thank the Lord. And the next year, a personnel job opened up, which is more or less like scouting, like what you'd think scouting is, scouting college players. Where you go to college gyms, European gyms, wherever it may be, you're trying to find the best player possible for your team. And I did that for the last 4 or 5 years in New Orleans. I ended up like overseeing our scouting department, and then I was one of the 2 or 3 guys that kind of put together our teams. We had really good teams. We had Chris Paul was the best player I've ever been around, the just ultimate competitor. We drafted him 4th in 2008 or something, and he changed our whole outlook. So that was fun. And then in 2012, I had just signed a 3-year extension in New Orleans, and I loved it there. My wife loved it there. She couldn't be here today. She wished she could, but my wife loved New Orleans, and I had some connections to Chicago through Iowa State, actually, and they called and asked for permission to talk to me. And normally in the NBA, they don't allow that. If you signed a contract, that's why there's contracts. They want you to be there. And I just signed it like a week or 2 earlier, and Chicago called, and I really wanted to be closer to home so I could drive. And they let me come back, which is good. And I've spent my last 12 or 13 seasons there, like he said, as the assistant GM and director of player personnel, which has been, some good, some bad. It's, it's up and down. I've enjoyed my time in Chicago, though. They treat me well, and it's been great. I've talked to my college roommate, who's like we went to Iowa State together, and he's been a teacher for like 15 years. And I was driving, and he said, "Where are you headed?" I said, "I'm going back to Lake Mills. I'm speaking at this breakfast thing." He goes, "Oh my gosh, we've had one of those every year." He goes, "All these people want you to do is be short and move on because they want to get back to their classrooms and get their stuff ready." So I'll be short as I can. Okay, I promise. So the way I got into the basketball business is honestly because Andy Stensrud was a great player. That's the way I got in. Andy was a terrific high school player, and he was being recruited by everybody. And Iowa State, Tim Floyd had just gotten the job. Iowa State hadn't really gotten a good Iowa player since like Fred Hoiberg. All the good ones had left town. Rafe LaFrentz had gone, Dean Oliver had gone to Iowa. All the good Iowa players were going to Iowa to play for Tom Davis. And so Coach Floyd really wanted to get Andy, and Andy would take unofficial visits down to Ames. He would drive, and I would just tag along. I wanted to go. It was fun to go to the games. And so over time, I got to know the coaching staff there, and they were obviously smart recruiters. They knew what they were doing. They said, well, think about it. If we get this kid, he seems like he's Andy's buddy. Maybe we can get Andy. So one day they said, why don't you come down and work summer camp? And Nelson and Wayne had talked to him, put in a good word. And so I went down and worked summer camp, and it was great. It was fun. I wanted to do it. They said, okay, first day of school, come to my office and we'll get you set up for this student manager job. And I thought, oh, this will be great. I'll roll in there. I get some free shoes, some free gear, tickets maybe, and I get to sit down around the floor. This will be great. Let me tell you something. This job, it's a great job for kids, okay? You should do it. If your children want to get into coaching or whatever, it's the best job. I don't, for any of you people in the military, I'm not comparing it to being in the military. It's the worst job of all time, but I'm so glad I did it. Like, it is demanding. These were the scariest people I'd ever been around. Listen, the jobs I'd had my entire life, I mowed lawns for Laverne Ramsey. God rest his soul, what a wonderful man. I had worked at Winnebago for my dad and done some odd jobs at Winnebago. But I'd never been around people like this, like driven, angry, intense, focused. Nels, you can say you've been down there. Wayne, you've been down there. I mean, Tim Floyd is still to this day the most driven. He's one of my close friends. My son's middle name is Floyd. And I think it was 4 years ago or so, I was talking to him on the phone. He was driving from somewhere, and he called me, and we talked for about an hour. And when I hung up the phone, I turned to Jamie, my wife. I said, that's the first time in my life I've looked at the phone and saw Coach Floyd, and it hadn't got a pit in my stomach. Like, he scared me that bad my whole life. But I think I got like $500 a semester, and you just did everything. You got to the gym early. There's managers here too, I'm sure, but you know, make sure the balls were out and the towels were there. And if somebody take guys to class, make sure guys were in class, which was gives me nightmares. But it was terrific, and I got to know. We had to do some crazy, ridiculous things. I'll tell you a couple of good stories here. But you learned a lot, and you learned how to like keep your mouth shut, to listen, to be really loyal to people, to not give up, really, because there's times you're in college now. I mean, I was hanging out a little bit, and it was late. I didn't necessarily want to go into the office at 6 in the morning, but you'd go in and do it. One time, Coach Floyd came to me. It was 1998 or 7, and he came to me and he pulled me aside and he said, "Listen, I need DirecTV in my basement tomorrow with NBA League Pass." Well, you know, he was going to go to the Bulls. He knew it. He wanted to watch I didn't know this. I was a student. I was oblivious. He said, I need DirecTV and NBA League Pass in my basement tomorrow. I was like, I'm like 20. You know? I didn't. This was 1998. There was no Google. There was no. I couldn't YouTube how to install DirecTV, right? So I go into the yellow pages, and he goes, "Oh," and he said, "And you cannot tell anybody. This is between me and you. You can't tell anybody." I said, "Okay." So now I got to keep a secret, and I got to figure out how to get DirecTV. So I go in to the yellow pages, and I found some dude in Des Moines, and he drives up. Sure enough, he gets there. We go to Coach Floyd's house the next day. He installs this thing. It takes 4 or 5 hours. I'm just handing him tools, you know, like, and he gets done, and Coach is pleased. Boy, he loves it. And he gives me one of these low fives with a whole bunch of cash, probably more $250, more cash than I've ever seen in my life. Wow. And then he pulls me aside, and he said, "You understand there are things in your life you can never repeat." And I said, "Okay." And I hadn't until today. I had to tell that story. But these are the times; those are the things. And then so after that year, Coach Floyd went to the Bulls, and I have deep admiration and respect for Coach Floyd. He's the best college basketball coach I've ever seen. And then in came Eustace, who is the if that was scary, he's just a whole nother level of chaos and crazy. Okay, very good coach. And so my last year in college there, part of my job was to videotape games for upcoming games. So we played Iowa at Iowa State. So this is the year we had Tinsley and Pfizer, a good team, went to the Elite Eight. We were playing Iowa, always the biggest game of the year. That's on Saturday. On Tuesday, prior, Northern Iowa was playing Iowa. So I got to tape that game. Well, I'm in college. So we have this bank of VCRs. I went in, I set the timers, I went to class. I came back like at, I don't know, let's just say 9 o'clock. And they're blinking midnight. Oh no. The power surged, nothing got taped. So I have this is not today. I have no ability to go download this game. There's no internet, I mean, there's internet, but it's real low-fi. And so I am freaking out, like Larry is going to, not only will he kill me, I am fired, I will not have any career. I said, what am I gonna do? So I start calling the Des Moines television stations. Hello? And this is what I'm getting at is you just had to learn in this job to be a solution person. Not a question person, a solution person. Yeah. So I start calling the Des Moines television stations. Nobody answers. Nobody answers. It's 10 at night on a Tuesday. I call Cedar Falls television station. Nope, nobody answers. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm just almost in tears. And I call my college roommate, and he's from Cedar Falls. I said, dude, I am dead. Tomorrow, I am done. This is my last day here. The UNI deal didn't tape the Iowa game. He goes, hold on one second. He goes, my dad, he's from Cedar Falls. He went to NU High there. He says, my dad taped some games. He calls his dad taped the game. I said, buddy, tell your dad I'm on my way. I drove to Cedar Falls. I got the videotape. I came back. I made a couple copies, put one on Larry's desk, the assistant. Nobody knew the better. Got it. Second one, last one of this story. We flew to Anchorage, Alaska to play in the Great Alaska Shootout. I think it was in 98, 99. And Larry Eustace came from Utah State. And he was not a Mormon man, far from it. But on game days, he had a tradition. He only drank caffeine-free Diet Coke. This guy shotgun Diet Cokes during the day, like dozens by the dozen. But on game days, he wanted 4 caffeine, not 3, not 2, 4 caffeine-free Diet Cokes in this little igloo cooler underneath his chair. We get to Alaska. It's like the day or two before the game, and we're looking around. And I asked one of the other guys. I said, "Hey, you got the caffeine-free Diet Coke?" "No, I don't got it." "You got it?" "No." "Oh, well, we got to go to the grocery store." We go to the grocery store. Anchorage, Alaska, I guess, not into caffeine-free. No caffeine-free Diet Coke anywhere. So we're like, what do we do? I mean, we got to have it. If, when we play, he'll lose his mind. So we, and he would have. And so what we did was we got a hold of a friend of ours in Seattle. He bought a case of caffeine-free Diet Coke and put it on a commercial airplane. I went to the Anchorage airport as the caffeine-free Diet Coke was coming around like a roller bag. Took that thing off. Again, nobody knew the better. And these are just keeping my career humming, you know? Caffeine-free Diet Coke and, yeah. It's crazy. But I ended up graduating, and I did that. I graduated in 2000. And I didn't really know what to do. I had a degree in computers. It was the dot-com boom. You could make a little bit of money, you know, doing that. And I wasn't in high, I wanted to coach, but I wasn't in high demand. I didn't have a great deal of experience or knowledge in the game, and I didn't know anybody. I took a job in Chicago, and I had been there for a little bit. I'm driving down 355 tollway one day, and Coach Floyd calls. He's the coach of the Bulls at the time. He says, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm driving." He said, I thought you wanted to coach." I said, "Coach, you know, I do, but blah, blah, blah." He said, "Come see me tomorrow for lunch at my office." I said, "Okay." So I roll in there to the old Berto Center where we used to practice. And he says, "Listen, I have a job for you. It pays $15,000 and 2 tickets. That's it. No insurance, no nothing. But if you want it, it's yours. You sit behind the bench, you learn, you do this, you do that." I thought that was great. I'm in. You know, I got to be around, and it's kind of like I was like the lowest of the low. You know, I wasn't the video guy. I was like the assistants to the assistant video guy's secretary or something. But it was a great experience. I got to be around all these players and coaches. And again, it's not like working in an accounting firm or something. There's a timing aspect to when you open your mouth, and you just learn these things through osmosis, just being around people. Coach got let go like a year and a half later. He got me a job coaching in college. I didn't know the guy. He knew the guy. He said, "If you want to do it, he's going to hire you." I said, "Okay." I drove my car to Corpus Christi, Texas. Spent a year there. It was a great experience. They treated me wonderfully, and I learned a lot. But I was really poor, and I was getting married. And so I needed to make a little more money. So I was interviewing for some college jobs, college assistant jobs at some bigger schools. And Coach Floyd got the New Orleans Hornets job. And he called me and he said, "Listen, I've got a room full of gear. They fired the last video guy along with the coach. The guy happens now to be the GM of the Sacramento Kings, so he's done okay. But they fired the last video guy, and there's a room full of stuff. And I'll hire you, but if you can't do it, I'm going to have to fire you." I said, "Okay, great. That's a good way to start." So again, I drove my Honda Accord from Corpus Christi to New Orleans and started that job. And then Coach Floyd lasted 1 season there. We went 41-41. We lost in Game 7 to Dwayne Wade his rookie year. And they decided to make a change, and that's when Byron came in. And that's when we got Chris Paul, and things kind of flipped on their head. And like I said, I was there 9 years, and you know, it was good. I just had such good people there, and I really didn't want to leave. Hurricane Katrina hit our second year there. My wife and I, we were living uptown in a little rental place, and we evacuated to Hattiesburg, Mississippi, which Larry Eustace was coaching at Southern Miss, and that's where I was. I was actually working his elite basketball camp. Not working it, but I was hanging out. I told Jamie, I said, come over, bring the dog, and we'll spend the weekend here. And she came over, and we didn't go back to New Orleans for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months probably. When we came out of this arena, we were in the arena at Hattiesburg at Southern Miss. When we came out, it looked like a nuclear bomb had dropped. Like there were full trees just strewn across homes, and the disaster was crazy. We had 2 cars there. We had, because Jamie had driven over separate, my 1992 Chevy Lumina got wrecked. God rest its soul. Just left it there. And then we drove our other car north, and as we were going up the interstate, they were literally cutting trees that were across the thing and pushing them like this, and then you could drive. And we got to Fort Smith, Arkansas, and we stayed at some little hotel there. And it was the first time we really had cell phone service and this and that for like 48 hours. And if you know my family, so like I've got the best folks ever, right? But they're not super emotional about things. Like we didn't have a lot of when I left for college, they weren't crying or anything like that. My wife's family is the opposite. So my wife and my mother-in-law, when they leave each other, still to this day, it's like, oh, I can't believe you're leaving. And so that's the way they are. So we get we call Judy, my mother-in-law, and she answers the phone. She's frantic. She said, oh my gosh, the hurricane, I've been watching it on the news. She's bawling. My wife is bawling. I call my folks. My mom answers. She goes, hey, Brian, how's it going? Pretty good. Not bad. But we ended up spending like 6 weeks in I love you, Mom. We spent like 6 weeks in my Jamie's grandparents' basement. We spent like half a month or 2 in my folks. And then the team actually moved for 2 years to Oklahoma City. And that's how Oklahoma City kind of got the team they have now, because it was a great experience it was fun. Oklahoma City was great to us and enjoyed it. And then after that, we went to Chicago. And so my first year in Chicago, I'll tell you a couple, I've told you some stories about where I almost got fired. This one's even more serious. So my first year in Chicago, we played a preseason game back-to-back in Champaign and Minneapolis. We played the Timberwolves in Minneapolis, and we played somebody in Champaign. And you fly everywhere, right? You fly private. Well, the team's plane was not ready. So we had borrowed one of Mark Cuban's planes. I think it was one of the Mavericks fleet. We fly to Champaign. We play the game. After the game, you get on the plane. We flew to Minneapolis. We played the game. After the game, we're taking off. We go out from Minneapolis. And I'm sitting on the right side of the plane, and the engine blows out. Boom! Big fireball flies out of this thing. And we dropped. And Kirk Heinrich was sitting in front of me. And John Paxson and our longtime TV guy, Neil Funk, were sitting behind me. And Neil is a funny man. John Paxson goes, hey, Neil, we're going down, aren't we? And Neil goes, yep. And Heinrich turns around between the seats, and he's looking at me, and his eyes are big. And I thought, okay, well, we're all right. It wasn't like fire. It just happened once. It was like a big thing. And then it happened again. Boom. And we dropped again. And this is when I got scared. And I'm sitting there, and I'm on my knees, and I'm praying. I'm like, oh, boy, just let us get through this. And I look over, and the Bulls have had one equipment manager for the entire time the organization's been around. His name's John Ligmanowski. He just retired this summer. He is exactly what you think he is. Johnny Legs is from Deberskit. Big, stout, Polish Chicago guy. And he's a wonderful guy and a great equipment manager. And I looked over, and he's sitting across the aisle from me, and he's white as a ghost. And I remember thinking, I can't believe the last person I'm ever going to see in my life is Johnny Legs. But we ended up making an emergency landing, and we made it. And, my time in Chicago has been great. I've worked with a lot of super duper people. We've had good teams. We've had bad teams. That's just kind of the way the NBA goes. But, I think being with 2 teams for this time, it's not super common for that to happen. Guys bounce around a lot in this league mostly, and it's not usually your fault, really. Just change of leadership. They want their own people. But I think I just have been able to get along with everybody. And I think I learned that from growing up here. who my folks are, who the people I grew up around here are. You know, I still wave at people when I drive. People think that's weird. I usually get different things in return, you know. But like the way that people are here and the way people help out other people in this community is elite, and it's not the way it is everywhere. The last thing, this summer I was talking to a group of college kids at I was out in summer league at UNLV, and they had a question and answer thing towards the end, and a woman stood up and she said, what's your biggest regret? And she said, it, I think she wanted to know like what bad trade you made, or who you didn't draft, or who you did draft that was a bust. But the first thing that came to mind, and I thought about it for this, was, you know, I haven't enjoyed much, you know, over like 22 years. Because when you're good, you're so worried about the next thing. You're worried about like, okay, we win 50 games, which is great, but you lose 32. And then you got, wow, we got to get past first round. If we don't get past first round, you know, we're in trouble. And then you get to second round. You get out of first round, you get to second round. Then you're worried about getting to the conference finals, or winning it, or getting in that mix to win it. Or if you're not good, you lose 3 times a week, and you're driving home just feeling like it's a soul-sucking experience, you know, because there's so many games. And you can say, well, you know, the games in the NBA don't mean as much. I tell you they do, man. For people that are in it, they mean a lot. And you got to go sit there for 2.5 hours and watch your team get beat, and then you drive home. I call my folks, and they usually make me do okay. They talk me down. I watched the game, it wasn't too bad. I know it felt bad when we were there. But, you know, I wish I could have, you know, when you first start out, like when I first started as a video guy, you just think it's a cool job. I'm so happy I'm making a living wage. I get per diem. I get to fly on a private jet, and I get to meet all these players that I grew up watching. It's cool. And then somehow you wake up like 10 years later, and it's your profession, and then 20 years later, and it's your career. And I have no discernible skill whatsoever to get a real job. I have no idea what else I would do. It's scary. But you know, throughout that time and the haze of the hard work and the nights in a hotel and in some outpost in Europe or something like that, it all, you know, it's hard to not just constantly be on to the next thing. I think my son especially has kind of helped me ground to that, where it's like, okay, I gotta, you know, enjoy this is a pretty cool deal. And but you know, that's probably my last story. I'll leave it at that. But there's so many people in this room that can impact, you know, and have impacted young people's lives. And it's so important, I think, for, you know, like when I look back on it, you have teachers that say you're good at something when you don't even know you're good at something. That's really important to kids. People that believe in you before you really believe in yourself. You know, the great coaches that I've been around, the great teachers I've been around, administrators that I've been around, they all have had that in them, where they can feel a person that needs a little bit of something, and it means a lot to those kids. And I think the people that are responsible for your transition in life, whether it be, you know, from kindergarten to middle to high school to your career, they're the people that change everything for you. And there's many people in this room I could thank, you know, and I have. You know, Kevin and Kathy have been great friends in my life. Wayne, all the coaches and teachers I've had here. You know, when you kind of get to that point, you can look at things, and it's not so much about yourself, and it's about like who's helped you, where you've been, where you're from. And I'm from here, and I'll always, you know, this will always be home for me no matter where I live. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hagen. That was great. Before introducing our new staff, I'd like to introduce and recognize our Board of Education. Not all of them are able to be here today, but if you are, please stand, be recognized. President Ryan Joint, Vice President Casey Singlestead, Directors Kari Osheim, Stephanie Storby, and Kristen Wempen. Thank you for setting the direction for us at school. We have some new staff members joining us this year. Max Dieter, go ahead and stand, Max, is going to teach Ag Education, advised the FFA. He's originally from Charles City and an Iowa State graduate. Welcome, Max. Alex Martinson is going to teach secondary math. He's originally from Lake Mills and a UNI grad. Brady Schmidt is going to be a middle school communications teacher, also originally from Lake Mills and a UNI grad. Joining us in the learner assistant area, Matt Falsgraf. He's no stranger, he's been coaching for us, so welcome, Matt. Surly Ramirez has been with us on a part-time basis, is joining full-time as a learner assistant. Welcome, Surly. And we have several staff members that are going to be shared with other school districts. Not all of them are able to be here, but we'll make mention of them here. In the area of a human resources assistant shared with North Iowa, Brianna Black's going to join us. As a school social worker, she started toward the end of the year, shared with Northwood Kensett, Central Springs, and Forest City. Shay Hall will be working with her students. In the curriculum director area, shared with North Iowa, Samantha Lampman will be working here. And Sam Warren is a technology operations specialist for us, shared with Garner Hayfield and Red Rockford Marble Rock. I think Sam is here. Sam, go ahead and stand up. And just a few staff members that have been here for several years but have beginning new roles or transitioned to them last year. Bree Bauman is going to be an elementary instructional coach. Micah Peters, athletic director, activities coordinator, and Brady Kurtz assisting. Kathy Nelson has moved into the activities and nutrition administrative assistant role. And Katie Kaufman is the middle school and high school administrative assistant. Over the past year, we've made some improvements to the facilities. Some of the big ones are a new bus garage, which is going to be completed this fall. It's paid for from the SAVE funds. Some other projects, landscaping on the northwest corner of the building, tuck pointing, concrete work, and some roof work as general maintenance. Another big one, we have some upgrades to school safety and security. We got a new camera system and door entry system. And so that's being that has been put in place, and there'll be an upgrade there. Want to make mention, special thanks to Mike Nelson and his crew. Mike's back there. This school building's over 160,000 square feet. Him and his crew, they put a fresh coat of wax on it, shampooed the rugs, touched up many of the paint jobs. There's just so much maintenance that goes into it. They did an excellent job, the full-time staff and summer crew. So thanks, Mike, for taking care of the place here. And as we begin this new academic year, our mission remains focused on teaching and learning for all. You've probably heard it said before, but that's what we're about, teaching and learning for all. And if you read the whole mission statements through our collective efforts. We talked earlier about the community here, and it takes all of us, and I appreciate that all of you are willing to do what it takes to help give the best education we can to these kids. Our essential learner outcomes on this poster back here: LURCH, lifelong learner, effective communicator, responsible citizen, critical creative thinker, and healthy contributor. They continue to guide our journey. That's what we're about. They're not just words on the wall. Okay, that's the foundation of what we aim to do for our kids here. You heard firsthand about how it's important to set those, how you can set the course, how words of encouragement can be the big difference that changes things. So I encourage everybody here to take these messages and not just let it be a good breakfast this morning, but make it into a good year. As we move forward, we need to remember education too is more than just about information. It's about the relationships, and through those relationships, building critical thinkers, resilient individuals, responsible citizens. So together we can overcome challenges that may come up and inspire our students to succeed. So I want to thank you all for being part of this incredible community. Here's to a year filled with learning, growth, collaboration, meaningful connections. So thank you. Beth Aids Hansen from the Lake Mills Education Association is up next.
Maybe I wasn't supposed to touch that, but we had a hard time hearing back there. First of all, on behalf of the Lake Mills Education Association, thanks for this turnout. This is amazing, and thanks for all of the things that were prepared for us this morning. I spent my summer moving my classroom, and I've been here 31 years this year and had 4 locations. It was a good thing it was time to move because 3 dumpsters, or three recycling bins, a van load to my daughter's new school, and a lot of stuff that went home that my husband said needs to go in the burn pile. It was a good time to move. It's pretty exciting for all the changes that are going on. People, new faces. But one thing always reigns true here at Lake Mills is we're all proud to be Bulldogs. So have a great year and go Bulldogs.